the morning or not the morning after the afternoon after the NC State win Science 248. Jake and Akshay I think are on airplanes to I think the same wedding. I have no idea where they are, but they're not here, so we called in our most reliable. I think you're the setup guy. You might be the setup guy or the closer in our bullpen. Joey Weaver of old FTRS lore and current basketball conference, uh, much current lore. I guess that's what I'd put it as. Hey, thanks for.
I prefer to think of myself as the third stringer here, not the closer. That's for sure.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That works. That works. That works. A, thanks for coming. B, how do you feel after last night? This to be clear, this is be only talking about football game against North Carolina State this episode. That is all we're here to do because I don't know when the hell we're going to record again. So we're getting this knocked out now. So
Hell
where's
yeah.
your head at? How do you feel? Is your heart attack still going after last night?
I'm good. And first of all, thanks for having me, Jack. It's always fun being on here, as I've said before. Yeah, I mean, it was weird because I went into this game from a very zen place of like we've got bowl eligibility wrapped up. The biggest stakes here are like, can you do this kind of fake record thing of undefeated at home for the first time in 25 years? Like,
Yeah.
it's fine. And then especially you get into the first quarter and it's like basically clearly going to be the Aaron Philo show for better or worse.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, whatever happens, happens. Oh, we got the lead. We led most of the game. This is great. And then they go down. And when Philo's driving them down the field, and then when NC State's lining up to attempt to win the game on that field goal, I was like shaking. Like, I don't know how I got so invested and so nervous, but
Yeah.
somehow I did. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't always pretty, and I don't think it's exactly how you draw it up.
No,
But I think
no.
one of the first things that Brent Key said in the post game press conferences, there's no such thing as a bad win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially for this program where they're at right now in their development, I think that's especially true. So,
Yeah.
you take them where you can get them, and you don't want to turn this one down and give it back.
Yeah, I almost convinced myself that I didn't care if we won or not in this game because there's only so much more we gain by winning this game. The real
Mm-hmm.
prize is next week if we can pull that off. We got
Mm-hmm.
the bowl eligibility, so it's not like you can like get a better wild card spot. It just changes what city in the Eastern Seaboard we probably play in late December. So it's like, what is this really doing in the long term?
Mm-hmm.
But a win is still a win. I would rather win the
Yeah.
games again that we should be winning, just to speak to our progress and how we've won games in multiple ways now this season. This was the kind of game that we were not winning and when we were playing Syracuse and Louisville earlier this year, and now it's when we are finding ways somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And not and even when we had the massive collapse, which is very emblematic of some sports of ours, finding a way back. Which
Yeah.
that 90-second drive, who knows if that was in our bag earlier this year.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That was something that we haven't gotten used to seeing out of this program over the last several years, right? Is
yeah,
those
yeah,
those clutch late game moments, and even it's one of those things, right, where you take the snap at the 18-yard line with 30 seconds left, and it's like, how are they going to screw this up? How are they going to screw this up? And
right, yeah.
he goes into the end zone. It's like, did he fumble? Like, what happened? No, no,
No,
he
he just
scored.
scored. It just went in. It
Are we
was
going to miss
normal.
the extra point? Like, what? So
Yeah, no such thing as that. Let me give a
I
quick.
do real
Go
quick. I
ahead.
did want
Go
to
ahead.
point out to something that you mentioned about bowl positioning.
Yes.
Subtle little side piece of this whole situation. The thing that you might have accomplished last night, you might be keeping NC State out of a bowl game,
Oh,
and
that's right. That's right.
that's a significant impact. If they are not bowl eligible, that's one of the bigger fan bases. They travel pretty well in the ACC, so that's a pretty good contender for good bowl
Yeah,
slots that you just beat and might be keeping out of your bowl lineup. Which
they are. Yes, they play at North Carolina next weekend to finish out their season, which we know is a beatable team, but they're not a terrible team either. So that'll be a brawl between the two of them for sure in
yeah,
Chapel Hill. Let me give a quick rundown of what actually happened in this game, and then we'll dive into the rest of our conversation. Tech's first touchdown came on defense, believe it or not. EJ Lightsey on a pick six. It looks like North Carolina State called that play that the Colts did with Pat McAfee, where no one was behind the center, and Lightsey just kind of went back there and grabbed the ball, and that was a touchdown somehow. Um, Wolfpack responded immediately, got a third down defensive pass interference call on Miles Brooks turned into a scramble TD by CJ Bailey, which will be a recurring theme in this segment here. So it was tied late in the first. We had a couple drives that we were getting down to getting a couple first downs, getting at least in field goal range, stalling in that 30 to 25 yard line spot. Aiden Burr hit 2 field goals to put us up 13-7 going into the half. Cornelius Tatum did get an interception to close the first half, but it was far too little time to actually do anything with it. Jackson Hollis late in the third dropped a pass that was going to hopefully get us a deep red zone attack in this game. Turned into Burr's third field goal for hitting from 45. I think he hit from 30. He hit from a bunch of distances at the right hash from 30 plus yards out, which is the stuff that was scaring us to death 3 weeks ago. And he hit them all, which was fantastic. Avery Boyd dropped a touchdown pass on the next drive that we had a lot of balls that hit us in the hands that did not end up in our hands, which was sad. And that was one of those passes. Next drive, get down the field again, except Philo throws an interception right when we thought we were going to finally put the throttle on them. Didn't get it. But right as this is the moment where it's like, oh, crap, here they come. Romello Height gets an interception, sets up a Haynes King touchdown. We're up 23-14 midway through the fourth quarter. But North Carolina State decided to just score like crazy to end this game. They scored another CJ Bailey scramble touchdown, just could not stop him scrambling. Made it 23-21 Tech with 4 minutes to go. We punt, and then they get a 53-yard touchdown run and get the 2-point conversion to make it a 6-point game with a minute and a half to go, down 29-23. And then, as we mentioned, Aaron Philo marches down the field in 68 seconds. Just a bunch of underneath passes. NC State was like, here, take the 10-yard underneath route. We will just hand you that play. And then Philo, 18 yards out, saw the safeties turn around and decided, I'm just going to do what CJ Bailey's done all day, and ran it in, and we won 30-29 after they missed a 59-yard field goal late. So we are 7 wins in the regular season for the first time since 2018. First back-to-back winning season since 2013, 2014, and 3 turnovers season high, which they noted in the press conference. That was a thing that they had put on their whiteboard this week, was 3 turnovers. That was not would have been on the whiteboard till this week, and they got it done. So
it's one of those curse of the TV broadcast on CJ Bailey a little bit. I think they showed early. They showed early, maybe on their first play or so from scrimmage. Oh, he's had 99 straight attempts without an interception, and he throws 3 of them, and 2 of them were behind the line of scrimmage. Which, that was one of my takeaways from this game. Is like, if you told me that Georgia Tech was going to win 30-29, like, I would have believed you before the game.
Very makes sense. Yeah.
If you told me it was going to be on multiple behind the line interceptions, and there were going to be both freshman quarterbacks were going to combine for 4 rushing touchdowns, and I mean there was just the how was pretty wacky and pretty unpredictable here.
No, that makes sense. And Height was a yard away from getting in the end zone as well. Like that was thankfully to set up the one Haynes King touchdown that we got all day when he ran that one in. So no, I agree. I had us winning 30-20 going in, which I'm not surprised it ended up being less. I think I was banking on the fact that we could do more with King than we were able to do. NC State saw what we did against Miami, which is pretty obvious. If Philo's in, we're throwing. If he's not, we're probably running the ball. King got a couple. I think we were talking in the Slack. It felt like there was a time or two where both Haynes and Jamal Haynes were like just barely getting clipped and getting close to breaking one out, but just never did. Like we did not have a customary breakaway run in this game at all. This was all over the air. But
NC State tackled extremely well. I thought. I mean, you could see Jamal Haynes getting frustrated, like trying to break one, trying to pick up chunk yardage, and just couldn't quite get away from that first level.
Yeah, what was his rushing yards here? He finished with Longa 12, 36 total throughout the games, and had one negative rush. Not his. I mean, these were the kind of games we were losing early this year when Jamal Haynes couldn't get going, and it was a quarterback leading our rushing attack. Those are the games that we were losing because that was the only thing we could spring. And Philo's big run came at the end of the game, so he was actually below Jamal Haynes until that final run to close out our scoring. So that was, I think that's the big thing for me is just found a different way to win. I think we all were hoping to maybe not play Philo because we don't want to burn his red shirt. I think you'd play him at Georgia, but at this point, it's like you couldn't play Haynes in this game and expect to win. And then I don't think they're comfortable putting Pyron back in throw situations right now. So that made it, that pretty much set that in stone.
Yeah.
We won the time of possession at 33 minutes again. I didn't feel like this mattered as much, I think, in the end, because it was just all systems go for both teams by the end of the game and just running all over the place. So I don't think that was as big as before. Philo career high 265. He was the topic of conversation in the post game presser amongst everybody from Brent to the defensive staff to talking, and Haynes sitting next to Philo talking about him, and Jamal Haynes talking about him like that. He's got the mentality. It was when it came to that final drive, he was just like, all right, time to go. Like it wasn't any different for him. He was
Mm-hmm.
ready to go. He mentioned in the press, he's had the presser. He's a baseball guy too. He's had these late game situations growing up in multiple sports. Like this wasn't new to him.
He
Uh,
won. I mean, he won 2 state titles in high school. He was on. He was the backup for another state title winning
mhm.
team.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been in big moments, and obviously, high school different than the ACC.
yeah.
But like, still, yeah, he's had to have these clutch moments at times. And yeah, I mean, he didn't look like he was afraid of it or going to shy away from the moment at all. So
No,
I was impressed.
that was. I mean, we needed the next man up kind of thing. Like this we used to remember when we had two quarterbacks playing a game, and that was because it wasn't for good reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was not that was recent history for us, and now it's now you'd well Miami might end up being an exception to how this all went down with how this plays out, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's like okay, either I mean, even Pyron still, it's like if any of the three guys are in there, you see how there is a way to success when they are all in the game right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah.
Uh, and even if it's going to be slightly predictable, we still got the guys that know how to execute it. We have the offensive line to push the line when we need to get Haynes King room to run. Jamal's going to be able to do stuff. Philo, keep in mind, he had 265. This man could have had 315 if some balls land properly in this game. Like there is a lot of dropped yardage in this game.
Yeah.
That I haven't looked up that much, but like the drop touchdown, the interception that went through one of our guys' hands again, drop third down. Like it was cold outside. Like this was low 40s during the
Yeah.
game. It wasn't terribly windy, as windy as we thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
I guess the wind only really mattered in that last second field goal attempt. Um, I don't know if they just couldn't catch. I don't think the temperature really played a factor in them be not able to catch the ball because it wasn't like it was frozen or out there or anything like that.
Yeah. And I mean,
This was just drop passes.
Philo has a bit of a rocket of a right arm,
This
right?
is
I mean,
true. He was throwing bullets. Yeah.
yeah, it's not full on. Is it Brock Osweiler or someone who would throw 50-yard frozen rope, like didn't drop at all kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's not quite that, but a lot of his throws have some heat on them. And
Yeah.
I thought especially the throw to Singleton that was dropped, that kind of skipped off his hands, that then was intercepted in the end
Mhm.
zone. That was one of them that on replay. I mean, maybe the window was that tight, but there was a piece of me that
I was
wondered,
surprised
like,
he threw it. I was surprised he threw it. He had Hawes in the flat at least to get to like the 2 yard line or something on that play and not
yeah,
throw into almost triple coverage in that moment. But
yeah.
I think you're about to say like that ball probably required a gunslinger throw just to be
I,
safe to get to him.
Yeah, but I wondered if like he could have taken just a little bit off of it and still
Mm-mm.
gotten it there, and because it looked like that came in with heat, and that was part of the
Yeah.
reason that Singleton wasn't able to hang on to it.
Right. Yeah.
That happened a couple times. We saw that happen, I think, a couple weeks ago against Miami too, where
Yeah. Yeah.
he'll throw passes, 5 yards down the field, and they are 102-mile-an-hour fastballs. That
You got to be, and he's got to
tucking
be
out.
careful on those. Like, if you're going to throw it over
Mhm.
the middle, it's got to be something that either it's going to be caught or immediately dropped. Like, that thing cannot fly past, and that cost us in that moment.
Right, exactly.
Also of note, Malik Rutherford left the game early.
Hmm.
I'm sure that had to play an impact on how we were finding our passing game and why it took some time for us to get down. Didn't have all those options we want to get down the field because it was mostly Singleton, Stockton, and Boyd. Like those are his guys he was targeting.
Yeah, you started seeing a lot of Abdul Jannah in the game,
Mhm.
and who's third? Isaiah Canyon, I think, is a true freshman. He was
Yeah.
playing a good amount. Yeah, you were seeing some guys out there in the receivers that are not normally your go-to guys because Malik missed most of this game.
Yeah.
He looked. I mean, it was in the third quarter, I think, that he had his helmet on and was kind of standing around the group on the sideline, and then
Yeah.
at some point it became clear he's not coming back in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. It looked like some sort of leg thing. They didn't tell us anything post game. I don't think we've been at this point. The guys in the press conference know to not ask Brett anything about health concerns because he never has an answer and doesn't get to talk to the medical staff before even during the game. He just knows if they're in or out at this point.
Right.
But again, like this is next man up mentality. We
Mhm.
have the depth to do this kind of stuff, even if it is NC State, who I mean, we were 9.5 point favorites going into this game. So it's like, yeah, to win easily, please, just with the running attack. But we just didn't run that well. I mean, advanced stat wise, they demolished us on
Mm-hmm.
in the run game. We were just barely above 0 EPA per play, EPA per rush. Meanwhile, NC State was 0.64, which is about as good as it will ever get in a single game. Uh,
It's weird looking at NC State's rushing numbers, 29 for 253 and 4 scores, because like I really didn't feel as I was watching the game like NC State's just dominating on the ground.
they were not. It didn't feel like it at all. No, you're right.
But they had a handful of chunk plays, I think, that really kind of ran up the yardage. And I
Yep.
mean, every one of the CJ Bailey touchdown runs, all three of them were from 15 to 25 yards, right? I mean, they were
Yeah. Yeah.
they were picking up chunk yardage, and then you had a long 53-yard run late to go ahead by Hollywood Smothers.
Yeah.
So you had some of these chunk runs, but yeah, I don't know that if they're averaging 8 yards a carry or whatever that is, that doesn't really tell the story of how the game went. I didn't feel like.
It was chunk runs. I'm looking at the game on paper page for this, and their EPA without explosive plays was negative 25.8
Mm-hmm.
uh, overall. So they were, and it was very reliant on chunking. And when they on those normal rush plays that were not explosive, they were negative EPA running, very negative passing because they were through 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was those chunk runs that just did so much damage that we were not super able to counter on for the most part late in the game until except for Philo's arm. So
Right.
I think our tackling was also not elite by any standard in this game. There was some room
Yeah.
to work there. Somehow Kyle Eford didn't get tossed in this game with a targeting call. It looked like targeting all the way through. We didn't really get an explanation upstairs. I don't know if there's some leeway for like you're just accidentally already in position to target and they give you grace for not having any other position to tackle a guy in, or I don't know what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but thank God because he was going to not play the first half of Georgia otherwise. So
Yeah, that would have been a huge loss, and that was really the bigger probably implication there. I'm with you. I have no idea how that wasn't targeting, and I was saying this during the Miami game, and I felt like if I tweeted something out, it was going to come off as, oh, Georgia Tech fan, just homer and
mhm.
mad that Miami's not getting penalized. I am at a loss at this point for what is or is not targeting.
Yeah,
And this was another example, right? This is one of the important players on my team. I don't know how he didn't get called for targeting here.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it looked on the replay and everything. It was like this was an unnecessary hit. You went in head first, helmet to helmet, looked like crown of the helmet. Like I don't know what they're looking for at this point. Genuinely,
yeah.
I don't. It's things that are targeting, they don't get called. Things that aren't targeting do get called. Like I don't know.
I wonder how much of it, like I know for a lot of the obvious ones, it's like when someone launches with the spear versus is doing a standing grab tackle that ends up head leaning, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
so tiny minutia that's so different and so hard to pick up in game speed as
Mm-hmm.
well versus replay. I don't know. Maybe they're just unless it's like so painfully obvious, they're otherwise given the benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
Yeah.
Certainly thought they at least called the one against us last week or the one for Miami last or week, I guess 2 weeks ago at this point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. That'll certainly come back to bite somebody probably down the line as things go, as we had the more important games. First interceptions of the season for Cornelius Tatum, EJ Lightsey, and Romello Height, which is very nice. We just haven't really done interceptions all that much this year.
Mm-hmm.
We've done the field goal blocking thing, not much of the quarterback sacking thing, and not much of the intercepting thing. Just a lot of the run stopping thing, and did all the opposites this today. Just did everything else. Field position, great. Kept North Carolina State pushed back pretty far throughout the game.
Yeah.
They
The
had
EJ Lightsey one was absolutely just,
it
Johnny
was
on the spot. He was
yeah
in the perfect position for
yeah
kind of a botched, like a little botched pop pass. And
yeah
yeah, he just, look what I found, kind of thing.
just right there
And ran with it. And that was awesome. And then, yeah, Trinelius Tatum, I mean, he just found himself in the right place. I thought that one
That was a bad throw. That was just a bad throw. He was double covered. That was a forced throw that just did not need to get done at all.
I forget if I tweeted it or I texted my podcast partner, Mike, but that was a freshman interception from CJ Bailey. Like he threw it right at Trinelius Tatum, just never saw him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was, but good on Tatum to come up with that ball and quell whatever pre halftime scoring they were going to try to do. And then
yeah,
really athletic play from Romello Height to come up with that interception.
Yeah.
Just, jumps up in front of a pass and kind of stuffs it in his belly and
Yep.
almost scored on that one too. And
So close. So
might
close.
as might as well call that a defensive score in my book. Speed yard
Yeah,
touchdown drives
basically.
don't go to the
Yeah,
offense.
it basically is. Yeah, yeah. I think that's all fair. As we mentioned, first undefeated season at home since 1999. I had not yet turned an entire. I had not lived on this planet for a whole year last time that happened.
Oh yikes!
I know. Sorry to make you
Making
feel
me
old.
feel old.
I know.
Goodness.
I know. At least I've been here for both of them. I'm just glad. I'm glad I hit that part.
There you
Uh,
go.
Sort of more discussion points here. Again, like North Carolina State, Haynes King really was just shut out of this game schematically. I think more than health wise.
Mm-hmm.
He did. I mean, we that first drive. He threw a couple short passes. Like they weren't scared to use it initially, but stuff was not turning around, and it became clear we had to throw the ball deep because North Carolina State was going to contain us if we tried to play at the line of scrimmage and block our way through and stuff like that. Uh,
I just want to emphasize though here, like if you're watching this game and you're a Georgia Tech fan and you're mad that the offense wasn't able to execute in that thing, I just want to emphasize this is an improving NC State defense. They had some problems earlier this year. They got absolutely obliterated by Tennessee. They got obliterated by Clemson. They gave up a bunch of yardage to Western Carolina in the opener. Like they looked bad the first
yeah,
month of the season.
they did.
This is the fifth game in a row, though. I think they've gotten better week over week, game over game. They're improving. Again, I said it earlier. Their tackling I thought was very good. They basically were going to force Georgia Tech to beat them with the passing game, and especially when Haynes King was in the game, it's very clear that Haynes is not throwing the ball down the field right now. So
no.
they were going to keep everything in front of him and go get him. The other thing I want to mention here with that defense is that is a 3-3-5 defense that Tony Gibson runs for NC State. And my understanding, I've spent basically no time in a football locker room. I don't really know how film watching, all that stuff. Like I don't know. What I do know is I've heard a lot from a lot of different places that reading and getting used to a 3-3-5 defense is tricky. And it is, I remember that was what TCU ran when they went to the national title game there a couple years ago, right? Like, and they're able to confuse quarterbacks and they're able to kind of punch above their weight, literally. Like you can kind of use some undersized guys and do that kind of stuff. For Aaron Philo, a true freshman going out there trying to read and figure out what to do with this defense, that was always going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
And certainly with that spread being outside of a score, like, if I had known this was going to be 90% Aaron Philo all night, I mean,
that's different. That's different.
I took NC State anyways to cover, but like that's a real challenge. And so I was impressed with how well he did. And again, the only turnover that he had in this game was really kind of not his fault. And so just wanted to call those things out that, it wasn't pretty, but it's not all because your offense just doesn't do anything. They got a pretty good defense too.
Yeah. Also of note, we've had like no sacks this year. Haynes is labeled for a sack, but that was on a fumbled snap that just turned into him just covering the ball. It wasn't a true during a play sack. So again, the offensive line killing it in this regard, and the quarterback's doing well enough to play smart behind the like. Aaron didn't have to like throw a ball away or anything like that. Like he was able to, for the most part, either scramble his way out of stuff or go find a guy deep or somewhere. Like that was even with down a receiver. Down, it was just all nothing was perfect about how we were set up offensively for success in this game. And we get still did pretty well. Aiden Burr, my God, hitting from the right hash twice in this game. Got the big ones. I mean, it keeps us in this game now at this point. We realized on the select that he's the most accurate kicker in Tech history coming into the year, and even with his slump, still is the most accurate kicker in Tech history right now, getting into that 80% range. Which no one's at 80%. Even Butker was Butker's third actually all time. So it's not him if you thought it was him.
It's kind of wild, right?
Yeah, I know. Apparently, our friend Andrew Chow was good and mentioned he had a bad 2014. So that was that. But
Aiden Burr hasn't missed a kick in a month.
Yeah, basically since Notre Dame, and even the Notre Dame game like wasn't really all his fault too with how those kicks went. I would say with how Notre Dame's getting in the backfield. So like, yeah, no. I knew he's always had the leg. Like I saw him hit from nearly 60 in the spring game, and he said he could have if they wanted to. Granted, spring football a little bit warmer, easier to kick than in cold weather, but still, he's got the leg. He's got this. I will not take slander. It just sometimes you get hot, sometimes you're not. As long as you're hot late in the season, it's fine, and you got to kick your way into it. You can't just not kick your way into it. So
Yeah.
it's like shooters. You just got to shoot until you're back.
Something else that Brent Key talked about in the post-game press conference was the need to build up Aiden Burr's confidence again. And he talked about
Mm-hmm.
there was a moment late in practice at one point a few weeks ago where, he missed a couple of kicks with the whole team around him, and it very much became a thing of like, we got your back. This is
Mm-hmm.
not you're not just one man on an island out here. You're part of the team and the whole thing. So clearly, I mean, he looks like a guy who's got some more confidence right now, and
Yeah.
kicking especially is one of the least physical positions in football, and by that I mean
Mm-hmm.
it is as much mental as it is physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for him to be in a good place from a confidence standpoint, that's clearly making a difference here. And yeah, again, he's 5 for 5. He's hit 5 in a row from on field goals, and he hasn't missed an extra point all year. I mean, so it's good to have him in that place going into some of your toughest games of the year.
Positive special teams EPA for Tech today, which is really cool. At plus 2.15 field goal wise, 3.45 EPA. So that is definitely it's stuff you want to see. We were very turnover luck. We definitely won that battle by a lot. Because
Mm-hmm.
we were the ones that created the turnovers. Um, we were look at the drives tab on Game on Paper. We did have more drive plays per drive. I think like not all less yards per drive. More we were in general doing better of attaining yards available to us. I think
Mm-hmm.
if we talked about like the overall health of our offense, it didn't look amazing, but this was still better than what we were facing, and we were definitely the defense was not. They were locked down for 70% of this game, and very not locked down for the last bit of this game where the Howard attack started to start. If you look at the win probability chart, there's a very significant dip in North Carolina State's direction before it shoots right back up in our direction. Uh, I
I need
so
to do
I
this math before we do the recap for basketball conference, but in my head, I think NC State scored on 4 offensive possessions in this game. I would bet that was 75% of their offensive yards was on those 4 drives because I mean, I'm just looking at it right here. Other than those drives, you had 3 and out, pick 6 on the first play, 3 and out, 6 plays turnover on downs, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt, 6 plays, 27 yards, 3 and out, 3 and out, basically. Like they
yeah,
did not move the ball other than on those 4 drives where they ended up scoring.
I'm doing the quick math right here. Okay, so they had total yards. Oh boy, where's the total yards thing?
Right at 400.
They were at they were at here we go. Net yards, total offensive yards, 400. Right at 400. We're at 391. They gained 297 of them in those 4 drives. They were
Yep.
all 75, 72 plus yard drives, just normal kickoff stuff.
Yep.
Uh,
75, 75, 75, 72.
yep.
So, yeah. So there you go. Almost exactly 75% of their yards on those 4 drives.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, very little on the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drives, basically 10
Mm-hmm.
drives that resulted in another like 100 yards.
Yep.
So I was impressed by the defense and the way that they, again, clearly the offense was struggling here and the defense found a way to keep them in the game and made things tough. So I was impressed by them and the way that they played, and they were able to get off the field on a number of third downs. And again, it was not the script that we're used to seeing from a Georgia Tech team, but
Well, I
it's
mean,
cool to win
I,
that way.
like lots of our recent history, none of these games are going the way we thought. We got to 7-5, and not the way we thought we were going to get to 7-5. What or 7-4 right now. You tell us you beat 2 top 10 teams and lose to 2 not ranked teams and or 3, and then it's like what the hell? None of this makes any sense.
Yeah. Who is this
Hopefully
team that I'm watching?
Hopefully it doesn't make sense next week either. That'd be nice in that department. Wanted to quickly check in on the ACC standings, which we haven't really done on the podcast all season, but just of noting, we're 4th right now at 5-3. Our ACC's calendar is done. We're the first. Clemson is done at 7-1. They're going to make the ACC title game. So this is still or at least they probably will make the ACC. Do they clinch, or can Miami still overtake them?
Oh, Miami can overtake them.
They
Yeah,
can. Okay,
no,
got it.
that
Okay.
Clemson's not in at this moment. I think if everybody
Got it.
wins out, Clemson's out. Actually,
Gotcha. Okay. So they made Miami to lose. Okay, cool. And SMU's at 6-0, so they still have 2 games to go. Oh yeah, Clemson. Yeah, they're at 8. So okay, there you go. 7-4 overall. we could finish as low as eighth, I want to say. Is that what the math we figured out? It was like sixth or eighth. We could definitely
Uh,
drop is the point here because we got Syracuse still has to play a game. They can overtake us just purely on head to head. Louisville has the game to play. They can get us on head to head. So we can drop 2 spots for sure. Just if
yeah.
those two teams win.
Well, Syracuse has got Miami next week, so
Well, that's fun.
we'll see how that goes on both ends. Louisville this week has Pitt, which I don't. That's not a gimme. Even
No,
though I
not
mean
in the
they're
slightest. Yeah.
yeah they're I mean I think they're favored by like 8.5 or something like that. Take the Panthers, by the way. Um, yeah, I mean you got Duke that has a couple games left, but I don't know. The Duke winning out would be a little surprising. Virginia
Yeah.
Tech and at Wake. I mean, yeah, they got them this weekend. So I I mean I think Georgia Tech's probably going to finish sixth at worst.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 5-3. It's you take that every time in ACC
Yep.
play, and
Absolutely.
finishing above 500, no complaints here.
No, not at all. I'm trying to load the 2023 standings while we're sitting here, but come on, ACC website. Just
And
do what I
one other thing, by the way,
want
that
you to do.
while
This
you're
isn't
doing
hard.
that,
Here we go. Well, all right. So we were four. Yeah.
you there?
Yes.
You go. Saw a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
of
Go ahead.
back and forth on oh well why do we always have to win this way, and like this is what the third win this year I think they've had out of 7 that the winning score in the final 30 seconds, and it's like why can't we win by more, and like that kind of thing. I just want to point out that it's nice having that conversation of why can't we win the way that I want to win, and not having the conversation of why can't we win.
Yeah.
That's progress, right? That's still better
Yeah.
than what we had been having for a
That is the
number of
progress.
years there.
This was never going to be an immediate jump, like from nothing to something. Like that's just
Mm-hmm.
not how this stuff works in football at all. You can kind of accidentally find your way there in basketball, but it's not probably going
Mm-hmm.
to happen. This stuff takes time. It takes reps. It takes people sticking together, and they are. This is 2 years of this team now, and the progress is there. Even if we're gonna, we not gonna we're gonna beat our regular season total. We might not beat our overall win total for this year, but I know we talked about this preseason. Us two talked about with the other guys. A 6-6 year this year was a hell of a lot better of a 6-6 than what we did last year. That was always the case with who we were playing and how the schedule panned out. And
Mm-hmm.
so in a way, we've already well overperformed our Vegas odds, which was 4.5, which we knew was dumb. Like we knew 4.5 was just did not make sense unless guys got injured, which they kind of did. Um,
And
and
yet,
we're at 7. We're at a guaranteed 7.
mm-hmm.
Not we ain't playing the Birmingham Bowl. Can't play Gas. We're not going to play Gasparilla again, so we're not going to do a repeat. So, I mean, this win cements we have moved up. Does it
Yeah.
matter what happens in Athens next week? Absolutely, it matters what happens in Athens next week. For how where we're at, what happens to Georgia's outlook this season, and it matters in a lot of ways. But without a doubt, we have crossed the point where this is a successful season. It kind of
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
matter what happens the rest of the way. We've done it. Like we have. This is a mission accomplished for what we wanted to see them do.
Yeah.
It's all
I
kind of
would have
gravy at
a
this point.
you would have a hard time convincing me or explaining to me how this is an unsuccessful season.
Yeah, yeah,
Or even if it's kind of up in the air. Like I'm with you at this point. Successful season. Last year I said if we make a bowl game, full stop, successful season. There you
yep.
had it. This year, not only got back to a bowl game, which I thought was probably the mark, but I mean, you get to 7 in the regular season, you're good. We had
It's
a great
huge.
year.
It's huge. And at the outlook, we thought North Carolina State was a ranked team in the preseason
Mm-hmm.
calendar. This was not an automatic win for us. It was we got to find a way to beat one of Miami North Carolina State to probably get here, and we beat both of them. So
Yeah, exactly.
got the job done. All right, I do want to slightly check in on Friday because I don't know if we're going to record beforehand. And well, this game is at night. Georgia's getting their wish of a night game out there, which worked quite well for them when they last played Tennessee, which did a lot for their. I mean, they cannot lose. Like this team cannot afford to lose at all to keep their national championship hopes alive, or just playoff hopes alive for that matter. Um, how do we feel right now? I gotta imagine they have saved some stuff up that Georgia hasn't seen. I know they used a lot of stuff against Miami to get that game done with how they played Philo and King, but I I have to think there's something that they have not revealed that's going to show itself in this game because I don't know how else you honestly I don't know how else you beat them outside of Carson
Mm-hmm.
Beck throwing 4 interceptions, which That might happen too. We don't know.
Yeah. I don't have high hopes. I don't have high
Yeah.
hopes. Couple things here. I guess one of the things I think about is they've found a way to keep this game close the last couple of years.
Yep.
And something I mentioned, by the way, Brent Key in this game the last couple of years that he's been the head coach, every year they have come out with some sort of kind of wacky different game plan, I felt like, and tried to throw some curveballs at Georgia that they had not put on film all year so far. So
Yeah.
I very much expect that to happen, and curious to see if it works or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel great because Haynes King is still clearly very limited,
Right.
and if nothing changes there in the next week, I don't know that's going to be a game that Aaron Philo is going to be able to go out there and win for you.
Yeah.
Um, the last 2 years, there's a big difference in this game versus this game this year, and that's the last 2 years. Georgia has had something coming up the week afterwards,
Yeah.
and I don't know all the ins and outs of the SEC standings and schedule and all that, but I'm pretty sure
Nuts.
Georgia's eliminated from going to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game. So it's not like they've got anything to look ahead to here either.
Yeah.
So that they'll have Georgia Tech's full focus, and like you said, I mean they need to win this game to have any shot at making the playoff and that kind of thing. So again, I don't think you're going to get Georgia overlooking this game in the way that maybe there's potential that they were in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Last year in particular, that was when you had, I think we're both McConkey and Bowers sitting out.
Yeah, they didn't play either of those guys. It was a very much a game was I was looking at my notes from this game last year. I mean, remember we only lost by 8. Like this was a 1-score game. We had Haynes King got a touchdown run with 3.5 minutes, three and 3/4 minutes left to go in the game. And Georgia just got enough yards. Milton was getting the rush and be able to bleed the clock after we did an onside kick.
Yeah.
Also, it's a very compact game. We had 9 drives in that game.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
yeah, they ran the same underdog game plan as they did against Miami, right? Of run the
yeah,
ball, run the clock, and
yeah,
try to shorten the game.
yeah, which made sense to do.
Mm-hmm.
We've had leads in the last 2 years in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
that has been a thing we have done. Uh, I don't know what's gonna. I guess my feeling right now, we were 20.5 point underdogs, which also feels no, just no. Like no, the Vegas lines for these games have either just not felt right. This week felt right. Obviously didn't pan out the way I thought, but like 9.5 made sense to me. This does not make sense to me at all. If we can beat the number 4 team in the country as big old underdogs, I feel like the number 11 team in the country, even if they're at home, should not be 20.5 point favorites at this point. So, but also, what do I know? We're just sitting here talking to microphones in 2 parts of the country. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
All I'm saying is that I think Georgia Tech is playing with house money here, and
yes,
expectations are low, should be low.
we
I
can
think
play a relaxed game. We can play relaxed and free flowing. Georgia can, if they get the right mindset, they will. But that is not the reality of their situation right now.
Tech has nothing to lose in this spot, and that's maybe the best thing they've got going for them is, yeah, you can kind of play freely and without any worry. And especially it's one of those things, you get late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, and it's a 1-score game. And, maybe you get a little bit of lemon booty from Georgia. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know at that point. I will note in the press conference, we did ask Haynes King about his arm, where he's at health wise. He's like, AC, his shoulder stuff, it's day to day. Like they've said day to day because they just literally just don't know how much it's going to regress at every given point. He only threw 3 times in this game. Could he have thrown more? Yeah, probably. It just wasn't going to be the game plan. He, from what he said, he thinks he should be able to be more mobile and be better with his arm in 8 days or in 7 days when this game takes place. Which
I'll
is
believe
nice.
it when I see it.
Which, yes, definitely that. But I mean, the more rest and the more rehab for him, the better at this point. Like this is a time-based recovery, not a shoot him up with whatever painkillers kind of injury to heal up kind of thing. Like it's just what this kind of nature it is. So
yeah, well, the way it was described that I kind of heard it described was it's not something that he's going to hurt worse by taking contact. So I've almost been thinking about it as like
that's why he was running the ball all game against Miami. It's like, well, you can run him that way. That's fine. If it's not going to hurt him that way, we're good. So
right. I've been thinking about it more as like a baseball bullpen pitcher injury or something where it's you got like shoulder inflammation or something like that, that
Hmm.
it's more a throwing motion issue than a
Yeah.
contact issue. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's tricky and different, and it's probably one of those things that, I mean, he's feeling it 24 hours a day. You can't go to
Yeah.
bed at night, you can't eat dinner, you can't do anything without feeling, the pain
Something.
there. So,
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
wish that on anybody.
though, and maybe this is just a game where he's just like, okay, let me just give it everything.
Hmm.
Just play through the pain at a different level than he had beforehand. Because it's like, what else? I mean, bowl game's great, but like, this is the one. This is the one.
Right.
We win the bowl game, great. We're getting the paycheck either way. So,
Yeah.
I think we'll be all right there. Um, all right. Any last notes you got before we call this a day? It's Friday, about to be Friday evening, so we got stuff to get to.
Yeah, I'm going to a Christmas thing tonight, so we'll see how that
It's
goes.
not even Thanksgiving, Joey.
It clearly not somebody who's married or has kids, because none of these things are up to me, Jack. They just tell me where to be and I go, and I don't really get a say in it. But no, I don't have anything else. I don't think. I mean, again, it's you're playing with house money next weekend, and if they lose by 4 scores, fine. Oh well. Like,
Yeah.
but who knows? Maybe something crazy special happens.
Yeah.
We've seen crazy special upsets in Athens in recent memory. So why
We
not?
have.
Why not again? Who knows?
It'd be great. It'd be great if they could just feel that at our hands for once. Would not mind. Um,
Yep.
all right, plug your stuff, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, come find me. Basketball Conference Podcast. It's on Spotify or Google Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcasts, or especially YouTube, youtube.com/@ the ACC Football Podcast. We do live previews and recaps throughout the season. We'll keep going for bowl season. We'll have periodic shows in the off season. We cover the entire ACC, but obviously with me, a Georgia Tech grad and fan, that's going to get a lot of the emphasis and attention. So,
There you go.
but we have a lot of fun with it. So, appreciate the people that do normally listen to us. But if you haven't, give us a try. We'd love to have you, and hopefully you find it as fun as we do.
They get to stuff that we don't care to reach out to because it's not tech related. So Joey's always helping us be smarter about the rest of the conference.
Well, I mean, I feel like
Each-
people can only ever be so smart about this conference in general. It's
yes,
kind of
that
a
is
mess.
correct. That is correct. There is smart is a word you can use. Probably who knows if it's the word. You can find our stuff from therebelseat.com. Email us from therebelseat@gmail.com if you want to reach out for a mailbag. If you want to write for us, I would love if someone wrote about softball this year. That'd be really cool.
There you go.
You can find us on Twitter and Blue Sky. Blue Sky's working, y'all. We're at 25 million concurrent users right now on Blue Sky. Not to follow us. We are not at that. We are never going to be at that. But come on and join us there at FTRS blog. Same handle as on Twitter. You can find me at Jack Nicholas. I forgot to mention Section 103 sponsors both of our podcasts.
They do.
Solid stuff. Steven was out selling stuff at the game yesterday. It was cool to see. That is the best tech gear. The Fleas Bobby Dodd sweater is back. Get
That's
your
right.
Fleas Bobby Dodd sweater. That thing is
Tis the
great.
season.
You can get it. Code FTRS for 10% off. This podcast is on Instagram, or not on Instagram. It's on YouTube. It's on all the places you can find stuff. We're on Facebook. Technically, we're on Instagram. I haven't used that in a while. But anyways, you can find this all. You can find the podcast wherever. It's everywhere. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple. Is it on? Oh, I don't know if it's on Google Podcast. Well, hopefully no one's listening to Google. It probably is. Who knows? Anyways, my smoke alarm's going. Battery's going off in the background. I gotta change the battery. Thanks for listening, y'all.